another significant thing was happening in India, which was a lot of the older exchanges, the bigger ones, were shutting down because some did not build out this system, some could not cope up with the sudden change. So when businesses were shutting down, every user of that business turned to their friends to ask them where to go. And because we built this new product, and because I, as a founder, was very open online on Twitter, very responsive to people, which brings a lot of trust, I think that gave the massive push for WazirX in India.
For sure. And the part to me that I think got me, or really kind of caught my attention, and I started paying attention, is you started using this hashtag India wants crypto, right? And I thought that it was a way to, it seemed like you were really kind of rallying people around that idea, but also you continued to tag, was it Prime Minister Modi and others, and really try to drive the conversation, which I thought was pretty clever.
Yeah, so that was like the second wave, I would say. I started that in November 2018. To be honest, I never thought I would continue for so long. But it's been now 390 days since I've been tweeting every day, and every day But my motto is, can I, with every tweet that I do, can I get to more people in terms of them understanding or hearing about crypto in India? People in terms of regular audiences or news people, journalists, bloggers, anyone. And at the same time, there's also hope that our Prime Minister and our Finance Minister, who I tag every day, they look at it and probably get in touch with me or the ecosystem in general, so that we can put our point across and tell them about crypto not just being a speculative instrument, but also a great technology that India can employ in the country. So yeah, but I think you're right. This has given a definite boost to my credibility online, my visibility online. But that was more of a side effect of the fact that it was frustrating as an Indian, where India is really good in terms of technology. India has a lot of young people, millions of youngsters, and yet we do not have like a easy path to crypto adoption or even trying out crypto. I mean, imagine if these barriers did not exist. Like today, it's just WazirX and a few others. But if this barrier did not exist, I'm pretty sure a lot more Indian minds would be at work on crypto, on solving problems that will actually make the lives of a billion people better. So yeah, I think that was the frustration that led me to start this campaign, and I'm going to continue till we get some positive outcome from this, from the government's end.
For sure. And I guess, like, what do you think success is, right? So you've got the campaign going, but what does success look like at the end, where you would say, what, we accomplished what we wanted to?
Yeah, I think the immediate one would be where our government sets up a working committee. I think that's like the first step to saying, okay, this is great. Because if you can set up a working committee which involves lawmakers, probably also the ecosystem players, a bunch of other people together, where you say, let's start the conversation. I think even if that happens, I think that's massive success, because then you have a group of people who can think in the right direction and take India in the right path to blockchain and crypto. What is happening today, like I said, at the beginning of this podcast, where we spoke about the whole committee which came up with a banning bill. That committee had no representation from the industry. It had no representation from anyone who's into technology. So how do you expect to come up with any laws or any legality around crypto if you do not have any technologist or anyone from the industry to be a part of such a committee? So I think a committee formation or some sort of a working group, if the government can just start a conversation around that also, I think that's success for us. I don't think India will regulate anytime soon, because it's a massive country, a lot of capital related laws in the country to be navigated. but India can definitely start a dialogue with industry players and with technologists and with a bunch of other people. So I think that's the first step for us.
Got it. And then I guess as part of this, obviously the news has now become public that Binance acquired WazirX, and you guys have teamed up to really kind of push crypto adoption in India. Maybe talk to us a little bit about what the thought process there was from your end, and then how that deal came together.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I've been, pushing for crypto adoption in India for a long time now. I think at least 12 months. But what I realized is if we wanted to go faster, we want to be able to understand how this whole crypto, I would say the uh, regulations and interactions and with the government, with the lawmakers, how does it work throughout the globe? You need someone who's seen a lot more than you do to be able to do things faster. And that's where I saw Binance as being a good partner. That was one aspect. The second aspect was how do I also bring about faster adoption of crypto in the country, because that's my mission. Like, how do you get everyone in India to be part of the crypto ecosystem? And I think that's where I saw Binance, the speed at which I think the most attractive thing about Binance is the speed of execution. If you look at Binance today, it's a massive company in terms of be it your revenue, be it user base, be it even the number of people. They have over 500 people now. But you look at the way they execute. I think if I didn't know, I would say this is probably a 20 people team, because that's the speed at which I can see things churning out. Because as companies grow, I've traditionally always seen the speed reduces; it never increases. This out here, you see a company doing the exact opposite, and that I think was the most attractive thing, because speed is what we need in the crypto ecosystem today. We need to go faster than what we are doing right now to be able to get such a massive user base in India, like the number of people in India. If you want to get to all of them, you need rapid pace, and I want to learn that. I want to get all the help I can, and I think Binance seemed like that perfect part of that.
For sure. And so, what's the plan moving forward? You, Binance, and Wazir all kind of coming together and going to drive adoption of crypto in India. Like, how do you do that together? What's the plan?
Yeah, so to start with, WazirX will continue to be an independent brand in India, owned by Binance. I'll continue to run it the way I am. But what we'll do now is we'll also tap into the Binance network, in terms of Binance already has a lot of Indians on them, so who always wanted some fiat gateway which is accessible within Binance. So we'll be integrating our P2P technology inside Binance soon, which will come in Q1 of 2020, where you will be able to get from your INR to crypto trading right within Binance.com. And that will give a massive boost and push to WazirX in general. But apart from that, I think Binance has this whole playbook in terms of how do you increase adoption in different countries, in terms of on the ground work as well as online work. So we're going to use a lot of that expertise to spread the word in India about crypto and spread the knowledge of crypto in India. I think that's where the significant contribution from Binance will come.
Got it.
And not to forget the much needed capital. Think about it. I'm in India in a industry which is nascent. I don't want to be spending my time running behind capital right now, because I can spend that time, getting maybe the next million people onto crypto. So if there is Binance, I can just focus on the work ahead rather than running behind capital now.
For sure, that makes complete sense. And then I guess as part of that, how do you think about expanding your team over the next 12 to 24 months? Is it something where you'll grow quite rapidly, or do you think that you'll stay relatively the same size as you continue to kind of push forward?
Yeah, I think this is something where we have to spend some time, because with the Binance, partnership, a lot of synergies will crop up where we might get to probably rapid product development because Binance has a lot of stuff under the hood that we could use. So I think probably in a few months I'll understand how rapidly we want to scale up in terms of team size. But I think we will definitely be hiring more, probably increase our team size a bit more. But I don't know exactly right now whether we want to go for a massive ramp up of people. But I know we want to go for a massive ramp up of user base. That we will definitely do.
Got it. And then what's your advice? There's a lot of people who are listening to this that are crypto companies. They're building based either remotely or somewhere outside of India, and they see the large population of India as a very large market and potential user base for their product. What would be your advice to them as they look to come to India? What's kind of the best way for them to do that, or maybe some of the potholes in the road that they should try to avoid?
I think for projects that want to target India as a market, I think India relatively is it's there's two India, one India which completely consumes your English information in the English language, and the second India which is very into regional languages, and those are many. If you're not natively from this country, I think you can definitely target the English audience, which is also massive. Through probably a lot of I would say online work in terms of spreading the knowledge of your projects and stuff through YouTubers. There are all these influencers. I think influencers play a large part in India because ultimately people trust people from their country, the ones around them. So I think influencer marketing will work really well in India in terms of outreach and stuff. In terms of I would say product development and everything, I think India has a good number of software developers who are very very eager to learn how to and want to get into blockchain development and work on that. In fact, there are a couple, I think 2 or 3 good DeFi projects out of India as well. And there are a couple of protocols being built in India. So there's definitely a good number of software developers out here who are competent in the whole blockchain work. So I think if you want to build a small dev center here, I think that's definitely you can attempt that as well. It's a good place for that too. But yeah, in terms of your marketing and stuff, I think in India, a lot of global marketing, like your influencer marketing, SEO, your blogs, podcasts, videos. I think those things definitely work for Indian audience as well.
For sure. And then what's that's kind of your message, if you will.
I think you have a large Indian audience, if I'm not
Listen,
wrong.
man, I've told you a million times. I love India. For those that don't know, my brother and I every year around Christmas time, usually the 20th or 21st of December, we pull up Kayak's Explore feature and literally just hit go anywhere in the world. And we basically, while sitting there, pick a random place in the world. And the rule is that we've got to leave within 24 hours. So it's a pretty planned trip. And I think a lot of people say, okay, that's pretty cool. But the key to the trip is when we get on the plane, we have nothing planned. We don't have a hotel room. We don't have any place that we're going to go visit. We have absolutely nothing planned except for the amount of time that we're likely to spend there. And so December of 2016 is when we went to India. And I remember we landed at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we had to figure out to go get a hotel room and go through all of this. And you and I were going back and forth, I think, on Twitter and trying to meet up. And said, why don't you come out here to the office? And I said, well, the only way I know how to get there is to use an Uber. And I was blown away. It was like $6 in an Uber for an hour and a half ride. And came out there, and that very first meeting that we had kind of set the tone for our trip. And 2 weeks later, we left India after going to where did we go? We went to Jaipur, Agra, Delhi, Goa, a bunch of different places. And I remember when we left, him and I both said that's probably one of our favorite places in the world. So you had more of an impact than you realize, which led to a great trip for us 3 years ago.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. You want to know the craziest thing that we did in India?
Yeah, tell
We
me.
rented motorcycles in Jaipur and drove by ourselves, each one of us on a separate motorcycle, through all the crazy traffic in town out to the monkey temple out there. And the best part of the story is it was the first time that my brother ever drove a motorcycle. So for driving a motorcycle for the first time is already tough enough. To do it in the heart of traffic of Jaipur is pretty much insane.
Yeah, I think for those not understanding, if they're not from India, they wouldn't understand. But driving in India is a different experience, and to be able to drive a motorcycle for the first time in India, I think that's hats off to your brother.
Yeah, he's very proud of that moment, so that's pretty cool. What's your message to either crypto entrepreneurs in India or those in India who are starting to learn about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? Like what you're kind of you've become, if not the leader, one of the leaders in India around this. What's kind of your message to those people?
I think when you look at crypto, we are at that stage where nothing's really built out, and it's an open playground. So you might be tempted to pick up a lot of stuff, but what you need to see is what is the immediate next step that needs to be built in the crypto ecosystem. And if you can identify that, I think that's massive success. So choose what you want to build. There's a lot to be built, but you have to build it in steps, and if you can find the next step that has to be built in probably in India or probably for the globe, you can build it for anywhere, but build what is the immediate next need of the crypto ecosystem. You'll find success.
Yeah, for sure. And then what's your message to regulators, government officials, central bankers in India?
I think when we come across a very disruptive, radically new technology, the first thing will always be to look at all the negative stuff that is possible. And this would have been true even of the internet in the early days, when people thought a lot of bad things could be done on the internet. But after probably 25 years of rapid internet adoption in India, the amount of good that the internet did far surpasses the amount of bad that happens, which is the same case with crypto. We need to look at, probably there are 80 good things that crypto can bring, and there might be 20 bad things. We can always regulate and handle the bad things, but the good has to really be encouraged. And I think India is primed for that crypto encouragement now, and I want the regulators to come and discuss this with us so that we can figure out how to probably amplify the good and diffuse the bad stuff of crypto.
Absolutely, it's excellent. Before I wrap up, I always ask a rapid fire set of questions. What do you think is the most important company in crypto other than your own?
Binance.
I had a feeling you'd say that.
No, but on a serious note, I think a lot of I don't want to name one, but a lot of companies in the DeFi space, I think very exciting, because that's like the future. I think the DeFi ecosystem being built out right now is very exciting.
For sure. And just as a side note, has CZ been to India? Did he come visit in person?
As far as I know, I don't think so. I don't think he's been to India. I can't remember, but I don't think so. But yeah, I think it's about time he has to come to India.
Maybe that's the next campaign, is bring CZ to India.
I think I need to start that hashtag.
Absolutely. What's the number one regulation that you would change or improve, whether it's in India or globally, to kind of usher in adoption?
I think probably I think the fastest would be a crypto sandbox in every country. Just let them build what they want, sandbox it, control it. If you want, just see that experiment play out. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I love that idea, and obviously encouraging the innovation and experimentation is super valuable. What's your most controversial thought in crypto? Like, what's the thing you believe that everyone else would disagree with you on?
I think I don't talk about this, but I think a day will come where all this whole we pay our income taxes, we earn, everything is very bound to our country. But I think a day will come where all this whole income tax and everything, it will all disappear because it will be very hard to enforce. And countries will start charging you a sort of a rent for being in that country. So, the whole income tax ecosystem and the way it works, taxation and stuff, it will change to rent, where you pay the country because you're in that country and you stay there as a person. I think that's what I radically think will happen in the future.
Got it. What's the best book you've ever read, or your favorite book you've ever read?
The book, I think I've read, I love a lot of them, but very early in my life, I read The Godfather. And I think the way to do business, the ethics of business, the way you do things, I think I learned a lot from The Godfather. But that was very early in my life. I was in probably school or college early days.
Yeah, I love that. that I know that was said that before. I love that. What do you think about aliens? Real? You believe in them?
I definitely do. Because I just don't think that the universe being this big, it's just going to be us in there. It's just probably we haven't found a way to communicate, but we will.
Do you think that we discover them or they discover us first?
I think we will discover them. I'm certain we are, at least. I think we are more advanced than the rest of the. I at least hope we are.
Yeah, well, at least for us, we better hope we are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. All right, to finish up, I let you ask me one question. What do you got for me?
I got two. The first is, when are you coming to India next?
Ooh, when am I coming next? So I haven't told very many people this, but I'm trying to come next year, 2020. I haven't picked the dates yet, but there's a couple of conferences that have asked me to come. So I'm trying to figure out which one I can make work with my schedule. But I'm pretty confident that I'm going to end up coming in 2020. So I'll let you and everyone else know when that's going to be.
Awesome. The other question is, what do you think will be every year I've seen some new trend in crypto. This year I think was more about a lot of stable coins, Libra, and all this noise. What do you think is 2020 going to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that there's probably three things. One is you'll see a continuation of like the digitization of fiat currencies. So governments and central banks will start like doubling and tripling down on this idea of like, let's digitize the dollar, the yuan, etc. Two is the tokenization of debt. So whether it is governments or corporations or asset-backed securities, et cetera, I think you're going to start to see a lot more of that happening and kind of the automation of that entire industry. And then the third thing is I think that you're going to see a world where we start to get some bifurcation. So right now it's kind of like there's Bitcoin and then there's everything else. I think what you're going to start to see is there's Bitcoin, then there is like the shit coins, but in between there is a very small number of high quality, very thoughtful uses of tokens. What those are and which ones yet, I probably don't have an opinion or want to speculate on, but I do think that we're going to start to see, kind of a higher degree of success or higher quality use cases for some of these tokens. And so what it'll do is I think it'll really kind of show a difference between the high quality ones and the low quality ones. And so when that happens, I think that it'll kind of vindicate some of the people who are big believers in whether it's Web3 or DeFi, all of those kinds of bents on the blockchain world. But we just haven't seen yet kind of the major use cases for many of those tokens. So hopefully that'll happen in 2020 as well.
Interesting. So you mean to say there's going to be a middle category, like a PTC shitcoin, and then in between there's going to be probably, we need a new term for that.
Yeah. So like here would be a great example, right? So I'll throw CZ a bone on this one. Let's say that there's Bitcoin, then there is all of the shit coins, and then like part of the middle group, let's put BNB there for now, right? And why is BNB interesting? Well, if Binance can actually go from being an exchange to a true global bank that provides all kinds of different financial services to folks, and then can eventually decentralize themselves on the corporate structure side to the point where the equity, either one, doesn't exist, or two, is worthless, and all of the value accrues to the BNB token through the burning mechanism. All of a sudden, what you do is, if you want to own kind of financial exposure to Binance, you have to buy the token, right? And so like that's a really interesting kind of evolution for both BNB, but also for Binance. And so, there's some work that's got to be done to kind of get to that point, but I think that they're kind of headed in that direction. And so if they're able to be successful there, like that goes, kind of in a category that isn't Bitcoin, obviously, and also isn't a shitcoin. So we kind of need a third category, but I don't think that category is going to be filled with hundreds of tokens. I think it's going to be quite small. I would put it, 20 or less that end up kind of figuring out the right model and value accrual. But definitely BNB is one of them that has a shot, and then there's probably others as well that'll kind of create this third category.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting proposition, and I think that's where even if even CZ's spoken about this a few times, where the eventual goal is to decentralize and have BNB as like the only entry and exit point for you to participate in that whole ecosystem. I think that'll be very interesting to see for a lot more projects that happen in the ecosystem. Let's see.
For sure. Where can people find you on the internet, and also WazirX?
I'm on Twitter. Nishchal Shetty is my Twitter handle, and WazirX. You can just go to WazirX.com and start trading if you're in India. Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and every other crypto is not illegal in India, so you can participate in the crypto ecosystem. If you're listening to this and haven't yet done it, I think now is time.
I love it, man. I love it. We'll keep fighting the good fight and spreading kind of the
registration verification email from WazirX. Click on it to verify your registration. Log into your newly created WazirX account. The next step is to complete the KYC. Start by adding your bank account details. This is where you will also receive money when you decide to sell your Bitcoin. You need to add your bank account, UPI, and if you like, you can also add Paytm account details. The bank account should belong to the same person/organization operating this WazirX account. You may only add one bank account. Click on Next. In the next step, you need to update your documents for the KYC. Here are the documents that are required. Copy of PAN card, your photo, address proof, Aadhaar card showing address or driving license or passport page showing address, passport page/Aadhaar card showing photo. In my case, I used my passport plus my PAN card to verify my account. This KYC verification